Hello and welcome to the Hoop Troop podcast. I am Matt O'Connor, and joining me as he does on all of our shows is my cousin Luke Drobner.
Okay, guys.
So we are recording this Monday, May 16th, after the second round of the NBA playoffs is closed out. Since last week, we've seen all four series come to an end, two of them in pretty triumphant fashion in Game 7s. The other two were less than glamorous, and we'll get into those, and then obviously just tackle what happened yesterday. But Luke, I'm going to let you guide us. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the boring two series that got out of the way pretty quickly, or do we want to go to
let's start with the least storyline series in Golden State and Memphis, and then we'll work our way up through the storylines, the bigger storylines as we go.
Absolutely works for me.
Okay.
So obviously 6-game series, Warriors win it 4-2. Ja does not play the last three,
last two,
whatever it was, 2.5. He left the game
because Jordan Poole grabbed his knee late in Game 4.
Right. So I think everyone and their mother expected the Warriors to end up winning that, except to their credit, in Game 5, what the Grizzlies did when they won, they were up by 50 the whole game. It was pretty amazing. I mean, without their leader in Ja Morant to go do that, obviously we all knew the Warriors were still going to win that series, but still, going out there and fighting like that, pretty cool.
Oh, so wait. I don't think Ja played the last 3.
Yeah, the last 3.
I think you were right.
And he left the fourth, the one before that, a little early. So he left, Game 2
So he missed
early?
3.5.
Yeah.
The last 3 games were absolute grit fests by the Grizzlies. I feel like they came out ready to play. I feel like they played hard.
Yeah.
Which is that. I think that's part of the reason why they won so much in Game 5.
I mean, they were not pushovers by any stretch, because yes, the Warriors won Game 6 by 14, but it's a soft 14. The score looks a little worse than the game actually was. But they were fighting the whole time. I mean, when they were down 2-1 without Ja, only losing by 3 in that Game 4 in Golden State.
And they were up most of the game.
Yeah.
And Golden State just kind of came back at the end and took it. I think they were up the whole game.
Yeah. I mean, and right, exactly. At some point, their veteran leadership, the Warriors, Steph, Clay, Draymond, it's going to be too much. So I'm not surprised. And especially a team without their best player in Ja Morant, sure, they're going to lose that. But I think they showed very clearly that they have something very, very intriguing brewing that, they're going to be a threat in the West for the next, how long? Years.
Yeah, how old is Jaren Jackson?
25?
He is 22.
Oh, my God. He's young.
So you got a 22-year-old Jaren Jackson. You have Ja is, a year younger, 21?
Desmond Bane is 21 probably. Same thing. Desmond Bane's young. Clark is young. Dylan Brooks.
Clark came out as a senior, though. He's 24, 25.
But still, he's not even in his prime.
Okay. Zaire Williams, 20. Jaren Jackson, 22. Ja Morant, 22. Desmond Bane, 23. They have Jarrett Culver, who played very limited minutes. Didn't look so great, but obviously he's 23, and you don't know what he'll. At some point, he may be a bench piece.
Right.
Anthony Melton, who looked good at times against the Warriors, is 23. Xavier Tillman, who I don't know will be a long-term solution somewhere, he's 23. The oldest guy on their roster right now is 28, Kyle Anderson, 28, Steven Adams.
Yeah.
Which, when you really think about it, not huge to lose. Tyus Jones is a free agent this summer, which I think he's a great backup point guard, especially because he doesn't turn the ball over. So they might have to figure out some solutions.
But I feel like you can find a solid backup point guard, because let's face it, in the playoffs, Ja's going to be playing close to 40 minutes a game. You don't need the best backup point guard. You don't even need a great one. You just need someone that you can plug in, a veteran who's going to get the ball moving. So that's why if Tyus Jones is going to want a decent amount of money, which he might want here, you might have to be okay letting him walk and finding a plan B, which, again, if I have Ja Morant, I'm comfortable not spending a lot of money at backup point guard.
I think you can kind of replace the point guard position. Let's say you have a good point guard or a good backup point guard. I think you can kind of replace them by committee, almost like a running back in the NFL, where like, okay, you have this one guy and he's super productive, and then he leaves and goes somewhere else. You can replace him with one or two guys who just one guy who's really good at running fast and making people miss, and the other guy is really good at running straight up the middle. You can kind of replace by committee. So like you can bring in a guy like Lou Will, who's kind of good at coming off screens and taking tough fadeaway mid-range jump shots, right? That's one type of point guard. You could also pick up a point guard who's like Lonzo Ball, who just, grabs rebounds, runs in transition. He knows how to move the ball. He finds people in space. So, you can replace guys with by committee there. But like you said, I mean, they're super young. They're going to continue to be good. Brandon Clark, 25, Dylan Brooks, 26. If Steven Adams walks, Steven Adams walks. I'm not overly upset by that
at all.
Especially because I feel like Jaren Jackson would be better at center than he is at power forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's their best lineup is when they go small, when they have him and Clark on the floor at the same time. So like, that's why I think they're in a good spot where, yes, I think it's a little fluky that they're the 2 seed this year, sure. But like, is it out of the question that they're going to be a top 4 team in the West next season? No.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be top 3, but I think the Clippers are going to come back and be really great.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that just kind of.
I think the Nuggets are going to be better. I think the Jazz are going to be a little worse. I think the Mavs are still going to be just as good.
But the Jazz were what, 5th? Jazz were 5 seed.
Yeah, they were 5.
I think the Suns are questionable. I don't know if they're going to be the 1 seed again. I think the Nuggets will get better. I think the Clippers will get better. I think the Pelicans will get better. There are a lot of teams here in the West that underperformed and teams that will just simply get better through time, like the Mavericks who are going to get better.
The Pelicans.
Yeah, so I mean, you never know what the Lakers might do. All of a sudden they might turn it around and be good again.
Well, did you see that report that came out today?
About like trying to maximizing Russell Westbrook's time on the floor as a new coach.
That's like the big interview question that they're asking is like, what are you going to do with Russell Westbrook? So it sounds like he's there to stay. If that's what they're asking in interviews for that head coach, like they're clearly planning on keeping him, which is a disaster.
I mean,
you have such a small window with LeBron and Anthony Davis that you need to maximize right now, and they're just not.
Out of the 3 of them, Westbrook's probably the hardest to move.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can't, and like I understand like the idea of like, oh, we trade LeBron and we make it we trade LeBron and we just start over again. And obviously LeBron is the most tradable player in the NBA because who wouldn't want LeBron?
Right.
But you can't trade LeBron for that exact reason. Like who wouldn't want LeBron? And if you trade him, like what superstar would ever come to LA again if you're going to disrespect a top 2 player of all time like that?
I guess. But hear me out. I think everyone would agree it's in the Lakers' best interest to do something along those lines. And in LeBron's interest. You're going to tell me LeBron isn't like, go put me in a better situation. Please.
I think LeBron's done in LA. Once his contract's up, he's out. He's going to go play somewhere. So. I think he's going to go play somewhere where he can be like the 2 or the 3, the 2nd or 3rd best player on a team. I think he should join someone who is a legitimate superstar, but is having a hard time finding valuable role players and secondary stars to come play with him. And that might be someone who develops in the next couple of years, someone who might get drafted this year, like a Chet Holmgren or a Victor Wembanyama,
Yeah.
But I think LeBron has a lot to think about. And I don't think when he thinks about it, he should be thinking to himself that his future is in LA.
No, I don't. Again, though, maybe this new head coach has all these big plans about what they're going to do, but I think it's a pretty doomed situation if they don't make any changes. So
I think even if they make the playoffs and play well in the playoffs, let's say they make it to the Western Conference Finals next year, I still think LeBron's out.
Yeah, me too. All right. So I didn't mean to go off on a huge LeBron tangent in the middle of as we're entering the conference finals, but so yes, to our point.
Another thing that I want to mention about the Grizzlies is that their coach was the runner-up for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, Taylor Jenkins.
So obviously they have a bright future. I think they just need to find the right depth around some of their guys. I like Desmond Bane. Zaire Williams has grown on me. There have been times throughout the season where I'm like, wow, he's really young. but that's okay because he's really young and you're supposed to make mistakes, right?
Right.
I think Jaren Jackson needs to learn how to play defense without fouling.
Yeah, I mean,
And I
they're
think Ja
young
needs to
though.
bulk up.
I think
They are
that's the
very
thing.
young.
Like they're young. The fact that they're in this position to begin with, that they took the
Mhm.
Warriors to 6 games, even without John Morant for half of them, like very impressive. They're very young. They will get better. They'll fill out the roster a little bit more too.
I
And
just think they need to keep the right rotation of vets on the roster, and I think
exactly.
that's the only thing the Grizzlies have to do. Stick to the game plan. Draft the guys you like. Draft for fit, and when the time comes, maybe make a move and just continue to bring in the right veteran guys. You want your Jay Crowders and your Kyle Andersons and whatnot, guys who just kind of make it easy to play with and make it easy to move the ball.
Guys without big egos too.
True.
That know what they're there for. So I do. I think they're in a good spot. And I think and I don't mean to like diminish what the Warriors did, because the Warriors did beat them, and sure, Ja wasn't there, but winning any playoff series is tough, especially against a good team. When you have to go win on the road too to close out a series. So Game 6 Clay showed up.
That was great.
Oh my God, yeah. But so good for them now, and we'll get to the other Western Conference series later because I don't want to start with that, but they have the Mavericks next. It feels like the Warriors are on track to make the finals, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
The fact that the Phoenix Suns got eliminated is big because this is the end of the Golden State Warriors dynasty with Curry and Clay and Draymond. And to watch them possibly go back to another finals is great. Maybe they can win one more depending on who they see in the finals. But it's kind of the end here. I think Curry is so obviously amazing, but I kind of feel it with some of these older guys as they reach their 30s. Like what Curry was doing back in 2016 is not what he's doing now, despite the fact that he's still great and he's still amazing. It's like the difference between a 27-year-old Curry and a 34-year-old Curry is like night and day.
Yes. Yeah, and so it is. It feels like this year, maybe next year, they're coming towards the end of this run. And yeah, they have some good young guys. Like I would absolutely say Jordan Poole has looked great, and there's a reason he was touted for most improved. Kuminga has shown flashes as well. Wiseman has not, but he's young, and generally it takes a little time for young centers to be okay
Wiseman's
in the NBA.
Wiseman's been injured. I think he was trying to make a comeback, and then he had a setback, and I think they're just taking it slow with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's also bad, so there's no reason to play him in these playoffs. It's the truth. True. He's not ready yet for this intense basketball. He's not, which is fine, but you never know. Maybe he turns it around. I don't necessarily think it will, but maybe it does.
They have young guys on the roster. It's not like they're completely out of the picture. But I mean, like if you really look at their roster, like Curry 34, Valencia 34, Klay Thompson 32, Draymond 32, and then some of the guys who are in their rotation are even getting older. I mean, Kevon Looney's 26, but not like a huge difference maker. Andrew Wiggins is 27. He's on a big contract. Like, do I want to continue to pay him type thing? You're coming to the end here, right? When Curry, like you're kind of reaching a point that the Trailblazers are in where your guys are getting older. You have to make a decision whether to keep them or to move on. Obviously, Curry will retire a Warrior. Clay will retire a Warrior. Draymond will retire a Warrior. But, some of these guys are still going to come off the roster. They're going to be bad, and they're going to have to start drafting people. And it's great that they have pieces on their roster already, like Kuminga, who's 19, Moody, who's 19, Wiseman's 21. Jordan Poole has looked great, and he's 22. So, they're working through the process. They're a good organization. I don't think they're ever going to be bad.
It feels weirdly similar to the way the Spurs kind of phased out a little bit, where you had the dominant Duncan years, and you had that the last Miami LeBron year where the Spurs beat them, where it's kind of like this swan song. You are kind of led by a young budding star, which we haven't quite seen that come out yet, but you see this changing of the guard there with the Warriors, and it might not be this year. Like I still think Steph, Clay, Draymond are going to be the leaders the next few years, but you're starting to see it. It's kind of it's weirdly reminiscent of that. So I don't know. I mean, I think we'll see what happens. For now, they're probably the favorites to come out of the West. No.
Yeah, I probably put them ahead of the Mavericks a little bit,
Yeah.
but
All right.
and
Well,
you could definitely make the
let's
argument
progress
that
to that.
Jordan. Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument that Jordan Poole is their second best player. You can make the argument that Andrew Wiggins is the second best player.
Yep.
And then obviously Draymond or Klay Thompson, who would normally be their second best player. But
yeah,
they're a good roster. They're going to have a successful postseason this year. I'd love to see them in the finals. Obviously, they're an exciting team. They're a veteran team. They know how to handle themselves. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. So let's switch to the other boring series, which was Miami Philly. And I'm calling it boring. It went 6 games, but like it was not fun. Like Miami took care of business. After Embiid ties it up, they adjusted, and that was that. Harden looked terrible. I think that's kind of all I want to talk about here. Other than, yes, I think Miami's a great team. And I know you and Michael are both just like, no, they're not. Like it's.
I don't disagree that Miami's not a good team, and Jimmy Butler's been outstanding in these playoffs.
But he always is.
He always is. He's a big. He steps up in the big moments. We always know that he plays better when the game means something. He's going to play harder. He's going to make shots. He's going to make good decisions. I think part of Embiid coming back and helping the Sixers rally back to a 2-2 series was part of him was obviously Embiid coming back, and I thought he brought great energy. I think for the last 2 games, he was, obviously he was injured those first 2 games, but he was even more injured those last 2 games.
Just didn't have it.
Because the Heat knew, okay, he's hurting, his thumb hurts, he's got a concussion, he's wearing a mask. Just bump him up a little bit, rough him up a little bit. And I think his body had just kind of taken too much by the time they got into those last 2 games. If you look at his stats, he didn't shoot well. I think he was hunting for jump shots because he wasn't trying to be physical in the paint or anything like that. And I think that's kind of why they lost the series. I think the Heat just knew how to play physical, and they knew what they had to do to get it done, and they did it.
Yeah. And
also,
right. So I don't
Victor
want to.
Oladipo's looked solid.
Yeah, totally. But so I don't want to diminish, because obviously the Heat made adjustments. They played very strongly in those last 2 games and the first 2 games of the blowouts. They knew, all right, if we can diminish Embiid, force Harden to try and beat us, which Lord knows Harden can't anymore. He can't be that guy. And so with an injured Embiid, it was impossible. And like, unless Tobias Harris was going to step up and like be incredible, it wasn't going to happen. And so, yes, the Heat absolutely did what they had to do. Their game plan was great. I think Spoelstra has really solidified himself as a top 5, if not number 1 coach in this league. But beyond that, I think you're right. I think Embiid is hurting. And he even made that comment. He's like, it's damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I play and I suck, everyone's like, oh, he's bad and he can't get it done. But at the same time, he's super injured. And so if he doesn't play, everyone's going to be like, oh, he's soft. He doesn't have that competitive edge. So he's like, what am I supposed to do? I'm going out here. I'm working my butt off. But I'm clearly very hurt. I have a broken face. My thumb needs surgery. Like, what is he supposed to do? And so I would have loved to see that series with a healthy Embiid, because I think it does look a little different. But, good for Miami. Like, I think they capitalized, and they made sure that they would finish that thing in 6 and then put themselves in position to really go and make it to the finals.
I think if Embiid was healthy, Sixers have a 100% chance to have a better chance to win it. It could have been Sixers in 6 if Embiid was healthy.
Sure.
It goes to 7, maybe. Obviously, terrible decision by Doc Rivers to leave Embiid in the game late in that Toronto series when they were up big in the elimination game. Just take him out.
Yeah, totally. Like, I think that goes without saying. We said it at the time, and it is even more true now.
I think the only way the Sixers stay relevant over the next couple of years is you kind of have to give Harden that extension, which is really gross. You have to pay him, and you just have to continue to run it back until you make it all the way. And I think part of making it all the way is either finding a second star in Tyrese Maxey or finding a second star in Tobias Harris. You ask Tobias Harris, be like, hey, we need more from you. We've seen you do more. It's, we paid you this big contract because we want you to do more. This is your time. Please, step up and be the guy we need behind Embiid. Or you can say the same thing to Maxey. Like, look, you're on the rise. You played great. You're very confident. We like you. We need you to step up a little bit more. We're going to give you more touches. We need you to score the ball, blah, 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 whatever you want to say to him. And Harden is just going to kind of be a facilitator.
Yeah.
And you hope that
It's an expensive facilitator, I'll tell you that.
Very expensive facilitator. You kind of hope that he can you take away his offensive touches and you say, like, Harden, we need you to, try a little harder on defense, be a little bit more of a stopper. Mm-hmm. You say something like, we're not going to have you isolate and shoot step back threes anymore. You're going to spot up and stand still, catch and shoot threes now.
Right.
And I think that's the progression of Harden's career. He's going to have to become a better defender. He's going to have to be more engaged on defense. I shouldn't say he should be a better defender. He has to be more engaged, especially when he's on the ball, especially when he's off the ball. And he needs to be a more efficient three-point shooter. And like that's going to be his role. And it's going to be $45 million a year, scale it up to like 52.
And he's only going to get worse over time. Unless he really develops his game to be exactly what you're describing. Like, you're not going to be driving him in the paint anymore. But if you can mature kind of like a Chris Paul, then you can bring value. Absolutely.
I think he needs to be a facilitator as his primary, right? Just kind of like a Lonzo Ball type point guard where like he'll grab a rebound, he'll push it down the paint. He knows how to pass, right? He's a great passer. He just needs to make the nice, easy passes, make sure you're finding open guys in space. That's all he needs to do. And then after that, it's just like you become in our half court set, you're a wing. You're no longer on the ball. You're going to stand over there in the corner. You're going to shoot threes when you're open.
Closeouts. Exactly.
Right. That's what I mean. That's the player he's going to develop into, the player he has to develop into, because he's not taking people off the dribble and pick and rolls anymore.
But I think the thing is, you're entirely right with they need Maxey to step up and become an even better offensive player, a little more complete offensive player. And he has absolutely shown flashes, particularly in these playoffs. But this offseason, they need him to work at it. Because I think if you ultimately can get off of the books with Tobias Harris and bring in some extra, like, better role players, maybe some other guys who are good off the dribble, like, I think that's what they need.
I think another important thing to mention with the Sixers is that Danny Green tore his ACL. He had a really bad knee injury. He's 34.
I mean, his career might
be right. So they're going to need to find, like, does Thibault take those minutes? Is Thibault going to be a reliable three-point shooter, right?
Right.
Who are you playing instead of Danny Green? You lose it, like, because obviously Danny Green's a great two-way player.
Right.
He's a good shooter, despite the fact that we want to give him crap all the time. So they're going to need to find some solutions, and I think they're going to have to ask guys to play certain types of roles.
Yeah.
And I like Tobias Harris. I can understand moving him for some role players, but I don't know.
I think he just takes up so much of your cap and does not give you enough production, and you can't have two guys doing that in him and Harden. So that's the problem. Like, it's one thing if you didn't have this fat Harden contract that's coming on your books where he's not giving you that, Embiid is the 1A, he's the 1B. Mm-hmm. You can't have Tobias being the third option, like a true third three, making that money. So that's the problem. You need him to be more of the second option to the 1A, 1B, and he's not. And so you can't pump all of that money into those two. And so I think you got to try and move realistically one of them. But it's probably going to be Tobias. So I don't know. It's ugly. The whole thing's ugly. So we'll see what they do. But that said, the Heat, again, kind of like what the Warriors did. They took care of business. They took advantage of some injuries. And they put themselves in a good position to advance to the finals. So, I believe in the Heat. I believe in the Heat this entire playoffs. I think they're so balanced. And I'll use this to transition into the Celtics beating the Bucks. I think they're very well equipped to beat this Celtics team. I think they match up so well.
I think it's going to be another tough series for the Celtics. It's going to go 7 games, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think when it really comes down to winning those 7-game series, it comes down to your star players. And is Jimmy Butler the second or third best player in this series?
Like, probably the second. Probably.
Okay. I'd like to see what Jaylen Brown can do. I'd like to see Jaylen Brown prove you wrong and say that Jimmy Butler is the third best player in the series. And if Jaylen Brown,
he hasn't done that. Didn't even do that last series.
Yeah, I don't think Jaylen Brown was bad in the last series. I just don't think he was perfect. And I think part of that was Drew Holiday. If Jaylen Brown got hot, Drew Holiday was switched on to Jaylen Brown. And if Tatum was hot, then Drew Holiday was switched on to Tatum. Obviously, Tatum has become unguardable,
Right.
and it didn't matter if you put Drew Holiday on him or not. Once he found a rhythm and he started stepping into those threes, it was over.
But
Whereas
Miami,
Jaylen Brown was shakeable.
I think Miami is going to defend Tatum a lot better because you don't need a smaller Drew Holiday on him, which is what the Bucks were doing. Which, frankly, I don't fully understand not committing Giannis to Tatum, especially in those later games. But whatever, fine, they didn't. Drew's a great defender. I get why he's on him. But I think Miami's going to stick PJ Tucker on him, which is a perfect matchup. And then that frees up Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo to kind of play help here or there. Because no one on the Celtics has shown that they're ready to step up and be that second guy. And so I think you have enough complementary defenders. Lowry has shown he's a great help defender. So I think they're actually okay. And so, I think they could even – you can't count on Grant Williams going nuclear from the three-point line in a Game 7, which happened. I mean, the guy drilled a career-high three-pointers. He set a Celtics record of three-pointers in Game 7, which how many Game 7s they had, but still.
I think Jaylen Brown played well against the Bucks, actually. He scored 22 points on 44% from three over 7 games.
He was fine, but he wasn't that, absolutely – stone cold guy. I was never tremendously confident when he had the ball.
It's Tatum's team.
Fine, but he's too passive. You need to attack. He did not attack enough in that Bucks series. I think they should have closed the Bucks out earlier. Oddly enough, it really doesn't make sense the Bucks went up there.
No,
and the Bucks had to win it at home, and they did.
It was the Bucks' job to finish them in Game 6.
Yeah,
and they didn't, and that was partly because Tatum was unreal in Game 6, and so is Giannis. But Tatum,
that was an unbelievable game. Game 7 was great, and there were things to take away from that. It was a fun atmosphere in Boston, but my lord, the two of them going for 40 plus in that game. Oh my god! And Giannis going back to back. He had 40 and 20 in that one, and then he had another 30, 20 or whatever it was in this one.
Yeah, he had 30, 20, and 9 or something like that.
Yeah, just insane performances out of Giannis. And for the Celtics to still overcome that, man.
I think it's important when we think about the Bucks-Celtics series is that Chris Middleton was out. If Chris Middleton was in the whole series, he played all 7 games, it wouldn't have gone to 7 games.
Hell,
it would have been 5, 6 games Bucks.
If he played Game 7, it doesn't matter.
Because
with Chris Middleton win that series in 6 games at most, I think.
Because I think Chris Middleton is just the offensive weapon they need. I think he opens everything. We all want to talk about how
he's sneakily the clutch guy too. He hits the last shots.
He is. He's very clutch. When you look at his comparisons, his NBA comparisons are Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Tracy McGrady. Those are the people he gets compared to.
Yeah.
And he's the second best player on his team, right? He is the clutch guy, right? When it comes down to late in games and the Bucks really need a shot, it's Middleton's game.
He's a 3-level scorer.
And he hits those shots with ease.
Yeah, he's a multi-time All-Star. It's just not having him with, championship pedigree. He was a large reason they won that championship last year. So to not have that integral piece is just, there's no way you're going to be able to win. And Giannis did everything he could. And I've seen a lot of Giannis slander on the internet. It's what else do you want the guy to do? No one else.
There's nothing else he could do. It was with Chris Middleton, if their team was completely healthy. And I think also part of Middleton being in the game is it takes pressure off Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is not checking up 30 shots for 25 points if Chris Middleton's in the game. And it also makes it easier for people defensively, they have better matchups. Obviously, Chris Middleton can switch onto a Tatum. He can switch onto a Brown. And I also think it makes it easier for guys like Grayson Allen and Pat Connaughton to shoot the ball because, they're facing tough matchups because Middleton's not on the floor. They're getting closed out on harder because Middleton's not on the floor. And are those guys great? No. I think one of the things I would have liked to see the Bucks do was play more Jordan Nwora just because he's a little bigger. I understand he's not as polished as Pat Connaughton or Grayson Allen, but defensively, he's a little bit bigger. So you gain a little bit of rebounding, maybe a little, and he's a good shooter. He's fine. He can shoot.
You know what I really think came back to bite them too? Trading away DiVincenzo. They just
That's
didn't
another
have
one.
to do that. And I think if they had him rather than
Ibaka
Ibaka,
didn't even play.
that's my point. And DiVincenzo would have been a much better presence on that team. And he was part of the championship run, even though he didn't play. He got hurt towards the end of it. But, like, to me,
He's a good
they
player.
were right there. Yes. Oh, my God. He would have been their best option to start at the 2.
I agree with that mistake a little bit. Trading DiVincenzo for Ibaka, especially when you have Bobby Portis.
Yeah.
I think I think the idea behind trading for Ibaka is like Rick Lopez is out. We're not so sure when he'll come back or what he looks like when he comes back. So it's good to have a backup option. And we have plenty of depth at wing, but it comes to bite you in the butt when your best wing goes down and then you have to play Grayson Allen and Pat Connaughton big minutes. And DiVincenzo was a starter. And I also think George Hill got picked on a lot on defense.
Totally.
And put DiVincenzo in because DiVincenzo's a combo guard. He's not so much a wing.
Exactly. No, I think that was a huge thing they're missing. And so I think this offseason, they have to address that. I think they need to know that there's a chance, they're going to be some injuries or whatever. And solidify team that.
With no cap space.
Right. It's going to be ugly.
Middleton's on a huge contract. Holiday's on a huge contract. Obviously, Giannis has a huge contract.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be a weird offseason for the Bucks, but they have to address some things. But then they do also have a little bit of the Nuggets syndrome where it's like, come back healthy, and you're going to be right up there again.
Yeah, 100%. They should run it back.
I think you just have to address that wing position again. Rather than having Grayson Allen play those minutes, you need someone else.
They could definitely bring in a guy. Is Serge Ibaka expiring? Because that's $9 million off their books.
I think he is.
I guess it doesn't really matter because they're up at the luxury. I think the mid-level exception is like $6 million this year. You could definitely attract one player on that mid-level exception.
That's it.
And other guys can come back on minimums. Like Wesley Matthews can come back on a minimum. Javon Carter, who played some minutes.
Like that's a replaceable guy to me. But yeah, I think minimum contracts are going to become the Bucks' best friend. And who wouldn't want to go play with that team? Giannis is an incredible teammate, a great person. Middleton and Drew have both shown that they don't it's just such a great atmosphere and just perfect people to go play with that why wouldn't you want to go there? Why wouldn't you want to try and ring chase there if you're going on a vet minimum deal? Of all the places you could pick right now, it's got to be number one for me. If they're going to be a role player on this championship run, fuck yeah, I'm going to Milwaukee.
Fair enough. I don't know.
Speaking of title runs, though, I feel like we're getting into the offseason segments, and let's stay on track. Let's now look at the Heat against the Celtics. Okay. Because as sad as it was to see the Bucks,
wait. Did we talk about Phoenix Dallas?
No. But let's start here, and then we'll talk about Phoenix Dallas, and then the West Coast. Okay. Miami or the Celtics? I want you, before we dive into it a little bit, who do you think wins?
I think the Celtics win.
I think Miami wins. I agree with you. It's going 7. Miami's winning this series.
No.
They've gotten there before. And it's essentially the same team.
I think Miami has a great roster. But when you think about that guy, you're down 2 points. Do you want Jimmy Butler taking a 3?
It might be Lowry, though. Could be Tyler Hero.
Kyle Lowry taking my last shot. Do I want Tyler Hero taking my last shot?
I don't know.
I think Tyler Hero's
Lowry's had a great career.
Lowry has had a great career. But my 6'1" point guard's not going to get a shot off on Marcus Smart Defensive Player of the Year.
But Marcus Smart probably isn't going to be lined up with him.
You don't think so?
Don't you figure they're putting Smart on Jimmy Butler?
Okay, so Derek White, who's also 6'5".
Derek White doesn't scare me. I'll take Kyle Lowry over Derek White 10 times out of 10.
Okay.
I do, though. I think the Heat are going to go back to the finals. I think Jimmy Butler is that hungry. I think Bam is that hungry. I think Spoelstra. And look, Udoka had a great series against the Bucks. His game plan and rotations were perfect. I think he'll continue that against this Heat team. The thing is, there aren't as many holes on this Heat team as there were in the Bucks. They were clear, you could, if you're attacking the Death Star that was the Bucks, there was that hole that you could shoot. On this Heat team, what are you really going at?
I think the problem with this series is that both teams are built very similarly, where the centers, it's not like either team has a big. I think the one thing that the Sixers could have taken advantage of if Embiid was healthy was the fact that Embiid is the biggest player and the strongest player out of anybody on that court. He would have dominated in the low post. Bam can't stop him. Who are you going to put out there? Dwayne Dedman, Omar Stefan. They're going to get smoked by Embiid. And the fact that Embiid wasn't healthy was the reason why the Heat won that series.
Yeah. Definitely.
Right? So now when you look at the Celtics, it's not like Al Horford's going to go down on the block and beat Bam Adebayo.
No.
That's not a good matchup. Robert Williams isn't going to do it. So it comes down to your wings. It comes down to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. It comes down to Marcus Smart. And on the Miami Heat side, it comes down to Jimmy Butler. It comes down to Kyle Lowry. It comes down to Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
And like when you name those names, I'm much more confident in the Celtics 3 than I am in the Heat 3. I think the Heat are like a college team where they're so well built across the board. Everybody's very even, right? There's no holes on the roster, but it's like they're a jack of all trades, but they're a master of none.
Yeah.
Whereas the Celtics have a little bit of both. They're a jack of all trades. They can run lineups. They can get a little bigger. They can get a little smaller. But at the same time, they have Tatum, who is unbelievable.
Here's the thing. Yes, I agree with the points you're making. But here's the one thing. The Heat have shown that they can get to a championship. The Celtics recently, and yes, sure, they've had good playoff series and tight ones. And granted, there were other players in the mix when those were going on. But
Kyrie,
Gordon Hayward, other players were involved there. Kemba at points. Like you had other players in these. But I do think Tatum and Brown have at least gotten their playoff, scars in a little bit. They're due for a run, and they have to show that they can get over the hump. But until then, I'm going to take the team that has proven that they can get there. Because realistically, this Heat team is very similar to that bubble Heat team. They similarly have gone and gotten their bumps and bruises in the playoffs since then. I'm taking the Heat. I think they have enough to. And I think both Tatum and Brown have shown they have a tendency to disappear in big moments. They have. Both of them had.
Tatum this year?
Tatum in Game 3. I'm pretty sure it was Game 3. What was it?
Game 3 of the Bucks series.
Yeah, dude.
That's not a big moment. The last two games of the Bucks Celtics series, he was unreal. He had a 47-point game and then a 32-point game or something like that.
Game 5. Let me see. What did Tatum end up with?
And it wasn't even like Tatum played the whole game. They subbed him out at the end. Tatum had 46 in Game 6.
34 in Game 5. Finished as a -4. He shot 2 of 11 from 3 in that game. 12 of 29 from the field. And then in game,
Tatum had 23 points on 14 shots in Game 7.
In Game 3.
And he had 8 assists.
Game 3 is the one I'm talking about. 10 points. 10 points, 3 assists, 1 rebound in 41 minutes. I mean,
the Bucks played well against him that game. You can't expect him to be great every night.
No. Fine. 10 points, though, Luke. I mean, we were just talking about how this guy's going to be top 10 in the league, arguably.
Jaylen Brown stepped up, had 27. Al Horford had 22. Derek White played well.
I don't know. But my point is, he's shown that there's a chance that he has a very off game. I don't think the Heat as a team, because realistically, you're not counting on someone to go score 30 every night. It's such a team feel that as a team, they're not going to have that kind of off night.
I mean, the Bucks lost that game, but the Celtics lost that game by 2 points. Tatum had 10 points,
and that was the tip in that didn't get off.
Okay. So very close game. And it wasn't like, Tatum doesn't have a good offensive game. He's still competing on defense, 1 steal, 4 blocks.
I don't know.
It's a team game.
Saying.
Like you said, the Heat are going to come out. They don't rely on anybody to score a huge amount, but somebody might. Hero has the possibility. Butler has the possibility. You never know what's going to happen with Oladipo, right? Maybe Duncan Robinson comes in and gets hot. Maybe Bam decides to go off for a 30 game. He has barely played, but against the Celtics, you never know. Kyle Lowry can get hot. I'm pretty sure Kyle Lowry's out for the first little bit. I think this Eastern Conference Finals is going to come down to rebounding and like transition buckets and free throws.
It's going to be a weird series to watch because it's going to be It's going to be similar to the Bucks one. It's just going to be very defensive heavy. You're not going to have these outrageous scoring performances by teams. It's going to feel like a 90s series, which is kind of fitting. But given that
I think
Heat are in there,
I really think that the Celtics and the Heat are super evenly matched. And when it really comes down to winning these series, it comes down to your superstars. They're the same team, right? Like they play the same offense. They play a similar defense, right? I think if Robert Williams is healthy and can play a lot of games, I think that'll be great. I think that's a huge help for the Celtics just because he adds an extra wrinkle defensively. So
gun to your head, you're taking the Celtics.
Taking the Celtics. I can't doubt Tatum and Brown.
All right. So then let's switch. Let's go to the Western Conference and let's talk about the other Game 7 that we had yesterday and set up who.
Awful game.
Let's lead ourselves to who we're picking to make the finals out of the West. But oh my God, the Suns. And yes, the Mavericks played well. I don't even know that it was so much the Mavs playing well as it was the Suns just looked awful on both ends of the floor. Oh my God. I know it might seem like I'm overreacting, but no.
The first half, Devin Booker and Chris Paul didn't get anything going offensively.
The first half? Devin Booker went 3 of 14 the entire game.
Yeah, no. But it was the first half that really, like, I remember going into halftime and just being like I'm not even going to watch the second half. Like, there's, and then I was thinking when the Mav, and I was like, okay, the Suns have to come out right here, start of the third quarter, and just start pounding the Mavericks. They have to go on a 10-0 run right here, otherwise the game is over.
But you know, and then
the Mavs go on a 10-0 run.
Yes, exactly. They make it a 40-point game. Oh my God! How in a Game 7 is that your performance? How?
Suns had
when you went to the finals last year. How is that?
Suns had no energy. Suns had no energy. Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton didn't really come looking to like this was a live or die moment. I don't think either of them really brought it. And I think it took Devin Booker a little bit to get to that point. It wasn't until the second half where I really saw Devin Booker trying to be aggressive and draw fouls and stuff like that. But even him trying to draw fouls, I don't feel like he was really, I think he was more looking like, oh, they touched me a little bit, so I should like throw up a bad shot. It wasn't like he was like driving hard to the rim and getting fouled. You know, it wasn't like he was trying to just make like good, strong plays. It was more of like him, okay, this is how we're going to win, and that's how I should do it, right? Like, I know we're going to win if I can shoot more free throws and get myself going.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, you know, oh, I just need to go out for a strong layup here. I don't think that was his mentality. And even then, the Mavericks just had everything going for him. Obviously, when Spencer Dinwiddie's shooting like sidestep threes, swishing everything,
right,
it's going to be tough. Jalen Brunson didn't look good in the first half, but in the second half, he kind of got it together. I think he was like 1 for 7 at one point.
Yeah.
And then he just started hitting shots. So, I mean, Luka had 35, Dinwiddie 30 off the bench, Brunson had 24, and then everybody else on the Mavs, they don't really need much from them offensively after that. And it wasn't like, they shot poorly or anything like that. So
you're not going to lose a game when at halftime, one player on your team has as many points as the entire other team combined.
Yeah.
Luka had 27.5 and the Suns had 27.5. That is embarrassing. Embarrassing to the Suns. But what do the Suns do now? Like, you have Ayton is going to be a free agent, and it sounds like they don't want to pay him. Sarver's cheap, so he might be gone. Chris Paul has one more year left.
Ayton might be gone, and if Ayton's gone, that's the end of it. If Ayton leaves, it's over. Because he when you really think about it, he's been special throughout some of these playoffs.
Can I give you a hot take about the Suns team?
Sure.
They were and are a little overrated as constructed. And I don't want to give Pat Beverly the benefit of the doubt here because I don't really believe necessarily what he was saying on First Take today. But last year, they beat the bad Lakers 4-2 in the first round, which, like, fine. It's a decent series win. I'll give them that. But, like, they probably should have won that anyway. They swept Denver, who didn't have Jamal Murray. They beat the Clippers, who lost Kawhi in that series with the ACL injury. Like, in theory, most playoff teams would have won those series. No? And then they lost to the Bucks after going up 2-0. Like, I feel like that championship run was kind of, and yeah, they earned it. They were a great team, but some of it, they had a lot of breaks go their way. They really
did. But then
did.
went up 2-0. Wasn't Giannis out? Didn't he hyperextend his knee game one and missed a lot of time?
Yeah.
So he missed all of game 2. They go up 2-0. Giannis comes out in game 1. They win. Giannis doesn't play game 2. They win. Giannis plays game 3, 4, 5, and 6. Bucks win them all.
Right. But again, that's my point. Like, I think as Pat Beverly was saying, Pat Beverly on First Take was going like, no one in the league is afraid of them. Who fears the Suns? Chris Paul's a traffic cone, which, like, whatever, fine. Pat Bev is Pat Bev. He talks.
I think Pat Bev is also.
But there might be a little truth to that. It could be a little like Utah. It could be a little like Utah, where they're a great regular season team. They have great pieces, great leadership, but they're not this playoff force that we should be afraid of. And especially now, going into this offseason, when like their team is going to look a lot differently next year. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Their window for a championship might have just closed.
Completely overreacting to the Phoenix Suns. I
think they're a good team. That their window for
they made the finals. They made a finals for a reason. You want to discredit the Clippers a little bit without Kawhi. There are playoff teams that lose to the Clippers with Paul George. The Clippers would have been a playoff team this year if Paul George didn't miss that playing game with COVID. Right? I think part of the problem with the Suns is it Chris Paul's team or is it Devin Booker's team? I understand the concept of the team mentality. Everybody has each other's back, and you step up and you play. And, if Chris Paul happens to have 30 tonight, that's great. But, I think it was important for either Chris Paul or Devin Booker to kind of set the tone. And when they came out a little lackluster and went down big against the Mavs, like one of you needs to see that, oh, here we are, we're down 12 in the first quarter. One of you needs to step up and say, we need to make great plays right now. And I know I can make great plays, and therefore I'm going to make great plays. Someone needed to do that. And Chris Paul nor Devin Booker did that.
And who I think the biggest indictment is on? And yeah, they disappeared in Game 7. But in the entire series, DeAndre Ayton was a ghost. I mean, the dude was not present on both ends of the floor in any of those games. I mean,
which is unfortunate because the matchup he had was who? Maxi Kleber?
But that's my point. Like, it's not like you have this giant, big inside on the Mavs. Like, sure, they have good team defense. They collapse, and it's hard to score on them in the paint. But, like, you're not going against this, like, great big defense. You were a number 1 overall pick, and sure, Luka's better than you, and that's a little embarrassing on the Suns.
I also think part of the knock against Ayton was that he is not the most mature player, that at times he loses focus.
I think we saw that.
I think you do see a little bit. You would love to see him really lock in and so on and so forth. Obviously, he's a great player. He showed that in the first round against who they play.
The Mavs? No.
Who they play in the first round? Oh. The Suns played the Timberwolves?
Yeah. No, They played the Pelicans. My bad. Jesus.
Oh, they played the Pelicans.
Yeah.
And he played well against the Pelicans, especially when I think Chris Paul missed time or Devin Booker missed time.
Right. Which, fine. Like, but where were you in this series? When they really needed you to step up. When clearly everyone else is not playing well, then you need it should have been an next guy up, and he didn't have.
I think you
again not to take away from the Mavericks, because the Mavericks did play well.
I think you need to re-sign Aiden and just run it back.
I mean, that's probably your best option. But it doesn't look great.
I wouldn't say that it doesn't look bad.
Chris Paul's only getting older.
But he doesn't need to be Chris Paul the way he used to be on the Clippers
or whatever it is.
That's just the contract you have on him. You make money off of him when he's young, not so much when he's old, right? Like Mike Trout. Let's think about like Mike Trout contracts.
Yeah,
okay. In March 2019, the Los Angeles Angels offered outfielder Mike Trout the largest contract in professional sports history, worth $426.5 million.
Right.
And now it was like a 10-year contract or something like that. Mike Trout is 30 years old. You think Mike Trout's going to be good at 36?
I mean, a lot of baseball players kind of fall off the cliff. Like, it's usually the first half of that contract is worth it, and then the second half isn't.
Right. And so when you're paying him $40 million a year on the first half of that contract, he's actually generating your team $65 million a year, right? So when you're paying him 55 and he's generating you 35, you're like, whatever, you already made me all the money I need. And obviously the Angels are going to attract other big talents and whatnot. So yeah, Chris Paul has that contract, and it's not a favorable contract, but you pay it anyway. It's not like he's a negative on your team.
No,
he's still a great playmaker, and
is he your number 2 though?
Mentality. He has
Booker. To be. Here's the thing with
Booker needs to take another step. I think I've been saying it all year.
Yeah.
Booker needs to take another step. He needs to be in the same category as the Jason Tatums. He needs to be in the same categories as, he needs to be in the top 10, top 5 debate. Is he top 10? Is he top 5? He needs to be that.
And he's not.
I don't think
right now is he
this
top
year.
20?
That's what I mean. He's an all-star, so he's at least top 20, top 24.
But he's on the edge. Like I think.
Would you put him over like? Let's look up NBA all-stars.
Like I don't know. But like also Kawhi didn't play this year. You have guys who didn't qualify. Anthony Davis didn't qualify.
Okay. Would you put him over Andrew Wiggins?
Yes.
Would you put him over Zach LaVine?
Yes.
Would you put him over Fred VanVleet?
Yes.
Would you put him over Draymond Green?
Yes.
Top 20.
But think about the guys who aren't on that list.
Is he better than Darius Garland?
Yes, but again, you have to add people who didn't make it. Didn't Chris Middleton get snubbed? Couldn't you argue Chris Middleton is better than him?
Yeah, you could, and you could argue that
Kawhi. Was Paul George, did he even make it?
Did Paul George make it? No. He was injured. LaMelo Ball?
Fine.
I think I honestly
he's right on the edge though. I'd say he's like in that 20 spot.
Right. And he needs to move up into the conversation where we're saying Devin Booker is a superstar. He's not an all-star, he's a superstar.
Right.
And that's the difference in the Suns. If Devin Booker is a superstar, they're going to the finals this year. And if he's a superstar next year, they're going to the finals. Chris Paul is a great point guard, and he will continue to be a great point guard until he retires. Devin Booker needs to be an all-time shooting guard, small forward, wing, whatever you want to call him. He needs to be, and that's the progression that the Suns are going to make. Sign Ayton to whatever the market sets him at. If the market says he's worth $100 million a year, sign him to $100 million a year. If the market says he's worth a penny, sign him to a penny. You have to bring back Ayton, and you just have to run it back. I think they have guys on their roster who are great role players. Obviously, Jay Crowder has proven that he contributes to winning basketball.
Yeah.
I like Cam Johnson. I like Torrey Craig. Mikal Bridges is very good. I like JaVale McGee. Cam Payne was picked on by Luka Doncic and wasn't able to play this series, but that's okay. I think Dario Saric is still recovering from a torn Achilles or ACL or something like that.
Right.
Elfrid Payton
is
okay.
Get him off that team. He's a curse.
Landry Shamet, I think, is a great shooter. So, maybe what Devin Booker needs to do is break up with Kendall Jenner. That's the one he's dating, right?
There's a rumor that they're on a break.
Hey, toss aside the Kardashian curse or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Focus on yourself. Top 10 player. All right, we need to see a top 10 Devin Booker.
Yeah,
we need to see him become the fully realized version of himself.
So then let's switch now. If that's their offseason, what do you expect in the next round for the Mavericks against the Warriors?
I think we've talked about this a little bit.
Who the hell on the Warriors is guarding Luka Doncic?
No one. There's nobody who's guarding him.
I can't think of who they're going to put on him.
I think Wiggins? his primary defender is going to be Draymond.
So are they going to play? Yeah, they're going to play small, I guess, and try and put Draymond on them. I don't know.
I think
one thing the Mavericks are really good at doing, though, is forcing mismatches. Like pretty much every possession in that Game 7, Luka got on. Luka forced every defender he wanted on him.
And I think when it really comes down to it, there's a lot of really bad matchups on the Warriors. Curry will get absolutely cooked. I don't think Klay Thompson.
Give me more Frank clamps.
I don't think Klay Thompson's the defender he used to be.
No.
I think Wiggins could be a little bit of a threat, especially with his athleticism.
I think that's probably where they're going to start.
I don't think athletic people really bother Luka. I think he's just kind of – plus Wiggins is small. Luka's just going to post up and negate – like if Luka's going to try and dribble drive against Wiggins, it'll be bad. But if Luka just posts up against Wiggins, who is the much weaker defender,
I think Luka is going to continue to have his 30-point triple doubles that he gets. I think it's a question of whether or not the other Mavericks perform as well as they did in this Suns series and in the first series.
I think it'll come down to spacing the floor like they have before.
Maxi Kleber going to drill threes? Is Finney Smith going to drill threes?
You're
asking these guys to keep doing what they're doing, and they've shown they can, but do you really trust it to keep happening to win another 4 games? It's a lot to ask. I'm rooting for it.
I don't think it is.
I think
Maxi Kleber steps up in the big moments. I think the Mavericks have the right game plan, especially to build around Luka. I think when you think about the Mavericks' future, it just comes down to solidifying the role players on that roster, right? Do I really want to continue to pay Spencer Dinwiddie? Do I really want to continue to pay Tim Hardaway Jr.? Do I really want to continue to play Davis Bertans? Right? You can find guys who are a little bit better for those salaries. And then you slowly but surely, you kind of make your way into a better roster. But I think what they're doing right now is obviously great. It's been proven with the success they're having, and it'll continue to work. I think this is going to be a really tough series. Obviously, the Mavericks play great defense. I think it'll be easy to hide Luka because either Kevon Looney or Draymond Green is going to get big minutes. And then some of the guys who are coming off the bench for the Warriors to replace those guys, like Valencia, that's an easy matchup for Luka.
Yeah.
You have other guys like, is Andre Iguodala going to play? That's another easy matchup for Luka. I think some of the X factors in this series will be people like Kuminga, because obviously Kuminga is incredibly athletic. You can shoot a little bit. And in the Suns series, that was kind of proven that Luka has a hard time closing out on some of these guys. So if Kuminga can shoot the ball consistently and start attacking closeouts, especially from someone who's a little less athletic, like Luka Doncic or Davis Bertans, it could be really big. I think if Klay Thompson can find comfort, attacking closeouts, just stepping in and shooting a 20-foot jump shot instead of 25-foot three or something like that, right? So I think there are easy matchups here for Luka. I think Luka is going to play big minutes. I don't think there's going to be people who can really hunt matchups against Luka. Obviously, you can get a switch with Curry on Luka, and Curry can go to work. But after that, I don't think there's anybody who can really force a bad matchup on Luka.
That said, I don't think that's how you need to beat this Mavericks team. I think you can beat them just by playing Warriors basketball.
I think it's going to be another close series.
Yes, I do think it's going to be a better series than a lot of people are expecting. I think a lot of people are thinking the Warriors are just going to win this thing outright. It's going to be a fairly quick, dominant, old Steph type performance, which is very possible. But I don't buy it. Luke, I'm coming in with my conference finals hot take here. I think the Mavericks are winning this series, and I think they're doing it in 6.
Okay. So 538, who does statistics on everything.
Yeah.
They've consistently had Boston being the top team to win it all throughout the whole playoffs. They've been it's going to be Boston. It's going to be Boston. And Boston right now has the best chance of winning the finals at 43%. Okay. They have the Mavericks making a 73% chance to win this series against the Warriors.
Wow. That's high.
And they have a 35% chance of winning it all.
Wow.
So out of the remaining teams, 538 says the Warriors have the worst chance to win it all.
I actually think that's true. I actually would agree with that.
I like the Warriors. It's the same type of way, never doubt a LeBron.
You think they're winning the series?
Never doubt a Curry. Never doubt.
Right, so then what do you think? Is this going 7, 6?
It's going to be a close series. It'll be at least 6 games, especially because Luka likes those elimination games.
I was going to say, are they going to poke the bear? Because that's something the Suns did wrong, is they got him pissed off.
Yeah, if the Mavericks go down 3-1 or 3-2, that next game is going to be a win for the Mavericks. That's pretty much what I have to say. With that being said, I think it'll go back and forth. I think the Warriors will protect home court. I think the Mavericks will protect home court. And then it'll just come down to those last games. Who really wants it more? I could definitely see a tied 2-2 series coming into game 5. We'll see what happens. Obviously, Golden State is prepared for this. They've been here before, like you said, Miami Heat. So
For
You
the
never
same
know with
reason
the
I'm
Warriors.
taking the Miami Heat. Like, I'm just not giving the Warriors that same satisfaction. I just think yes, they've been here before, but they're clearly declining. The Heat aren't.
I like the fact that Luka's playing great high level basketball, but I need ripped Luka. I need him to lose
This is
5,
the
10
most
pounds
ridiculous
and just
thing.
become fucking jacked.
Yeah, I would love that too, Luke. But he could still win a championship and then go get jacked.
The same? No. That's not
How
how it's going
sick
to
would
work.
it be if this
He's
guy
gonna
went and won a championship already?
if he won a
It would be
championship this
so
year,
freaking cool.
If he wins a championship this year, he's going to come back next season with an extra 5 pounds on him. He's going to spend the whole summer like drinking booze and fucking partying all
and the
day.
Knicks have the
I'm
pick, baby. We need it.
I hate it. I hate it. Right? I want his heart to be shattered. I want them to lose on a Curry buzzer beater, like a half court, like game 7 swish.
That's all right.
40-foot jumper. That's what I want. And I want Luka to shake everyone's hands. And I don't want him to do any press interviews. I just want to see him storm off the court, heated. And then I want to see him come back in the same way we got sexy Jokic. I want sexy Luka.
Oh my God. I would love that. Just something about these European guys coming back, dropping a little poundage and then going to town winning some MVPs.
And then Luka's going for the MVP next year. That's all said and done.
I want the opposite of that. I want them to win the championship, and then I want him to just get
22.
fatter.
He's 23.
Yes, but that's the reason. That's the main reason I want them to win. If he wins his first championship now, this early, because he's obviously going to win one, I would be amazed if by the end of his career he does not have a championship. Truly amazed. If he wins one this early, he puts himself ahead of the normal trajectory to be in that like top 5 player of all time.
Yeah, I mean, if you really think about like when Jordan started winning his rings and LeBron winning in Miami and things like that. LeBron was earlier than all of them. 27. Yeah, and Jordan was also like 26, 27 when the Bulls started getting good and moving on past the Pistons and whatnot. So, obviously it puts him in great position. Bird won his second year in the league when he was 24.
It was just that's the 80s don't count though. I mean,
why?
Because it's just such a different league back then. I feel like now the jump that a lot of guys have where you're coming in as a 18, 19-year-old and you can't quite just come in and lead a team to win like that anymore at that young of an age. It takes like a supreme athlete and star and basketball player to do that. That's why you see guys like, I don't know, who are highly touted prospects. And Anthony Davis comes in as a clear number 1 who's supposed to be this franchise changer. And he gets you through the first round once. Like, I feel like that's kind of the ceiling of these amazing young stars. And so now to see this happening, like, it's amazing.
Yeah, but Luka, if you look at like Luka Doncic, EuroLeague, he won the EuroLeague MVP. I'm pretty sure they won the championship, the EuroLeague championship when he was with Real Madrid, where it was the Liga ACB, whatever it was. They won a championship. He won the MVP. He won the Rising Stars Challenger. Like, this is nothing new for him. He's been playing with grown men for, I don't know, 6 years, 5 years before he even got to the NBA. And sure, obviously the NBA is a different level of competition than EuroLeague, but it's not like EuroLeague. EuroLeague is somewhere between college and NBA.
Yeah.
And Luka had been doing that for 1, 2, 3, 4 years before he even got to the NBA. He knew what he was doing. I mean, he saw that his rookie year, he averaged what?
Right. He came out swinging. And everyone knew he was this generational talent right off the bat. But
he averaged 21, 8, and 6 his rookie year.
But again,
then he upped that again.
You're only reinforcing my point. He's done all of this already, and he's only 22. At a championship now, I think he literally puts himself in a position to be the best basketball player of all time.
It's not about. It
does though.
It's not about now. It's about the whole career. He's going to play 15 years. Why wouldn't, right? Here he is in year 4. He's got 10 more years to win 3 to 4 championships if he wants to be considered a top 5 player of all time.
Yeah, realistically.
Right? And when you really think about it, like, he hits his prime. The Mavericks have a great roster around him. He's 26, 27, 28, 29. Those are the 4 years where he's going to really have to lock in. He's going to have to win 2 or 3 right there and then. Maybe he'll get one after. Maybe he'll get one before. But, I think the biggest concern is he wins a championship now with the shape and whatnot with the person he is right now. Like, does he continue to work? Does he continue to or does he see himself as like, this is like, I am good enough as I am right now
to do this?
Yeah, right. I just think there's another step he needs to take before he's ready to win a championship. You can't just hand somebody the success
it's a valid
before
point.
they really deserve it.
It's a valid
He has
point.
to earn it. He has to earn it. And, it's the same thing with James Harden. James Harden didn't deserve it. He was showing up the first 10 to 15 games of every season. You were like, wow, James Harden's fat and out of shape. Yep. And he'd get his shit together. They'd go to the Western Conference Finals and they get smoked by the Warriors 4-1. That's just the way it should be.
Yeah.
If he really wanted the championship, he's got to earn it.
Except I have a counterpoint to all of this. It would be awesome if Porzingis got traded and then they won the championship. Because F that guy. Yeah.
No,
I'm not still bitter. Don't worry. I'm over it.
After the trade deadline, all the people on the Mavericks were like, yeah, like it's crazy that we don't have any more divas on the roster anymore.
Yep.
There's no more egos here.
It's awesome.
So,
all right. So we've been on for a while, and I do want to do one thing before we get off. Luke, we have the NBA draft lottery tomorrow.
Okay.
I want to do a single sim. And you know what? We're on Zoom. I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see this.
Look at it.
All right. So we're in here. Let's sim this bad boy.
Is this actually what's going to happen?
Oh, my God. Oh! Luke. Oh, my God. Single sim. The Knicks move up for the first overall pick. Oh, my God.
Look at
wow. So,
where are the Pistons? Oh, Pistons drafted 5th. That sucks.
The Pistons dropped. Wow. All right. This is actually an interesting draft. I don't think it'll end up happening. But wow. The Knicks move up 10 spots to 1. The Rockets drop 1. The Magic drop 1 to 3. The Portland Trailblazers move up to 4 and get Jaden Ivey, which I low-key would love him on Portland. Be a pretty sweet destination. Wow. That? Oh, my God. All right, that made my day. Single sim. I'm not touching this. Although I did just get all of my luck out of the way. It's a shame.
Yeah, not looking good for tomorrow.
Had to do
one
it.
Thing I will say, Tankathon has now, the Knicks are projected to be the 11th pick. The Tankathon has now said that you're going to draft Jalen Duren, which I think would be a better pick than like Ty Washington or some of the other guys out there. So we'll see where they all fall. My roommate likes Mark Williams from Duke better than Duren, but
interesting. I do like Mark Williams, but
I like Mark Williams. He's long, he's athletic. He likes, he likes to block shots. I think Jalen Duren's more offensively focused, where Mark Williams more of a defensive guy. Both do the same type of thing. They both control the area over the rim. So
right. I do think it's hard to speculate on any of the draft yet, but had to do one last sim before the lottery tomorrow. Just have a little fun. That was unexpected to say the least, but
exciting.
I guess you never know what's coming. So now we have to look forward to now is draft lottery tomorrow. The conference finals start tomorrow, and then we're in the home stretch for the end of the NBA season. Unfortunately, it's awesome. I'm glad we're getting there, but at the same time, it's like, oh no, the season's ending. Ugh.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. What's next? What's after basketball? Football season?
Baseball, baby. Let's go Mets.
Baseball. Can't watch baseball. It's too slow for me.
No, you got to buy in, Luke. It's all about the Mets.
Maybe I'll become a Mariners.
Our year. I'll get you hooked. That's all. Yeah.
All right.
We just got to go to a game together.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so this is the Hoop Troop podcast. Thank you all for joining, and tune in next time.